So let's go through this, what his thing is, and maybe if you just scroll down a bit, we just go to his points and we just talk through them one by one. Yeah. So so there's going to be a contracts released on Ethereum and on PulseChain, and what people can do is they can send their HSIs, which are hex stakes, and they can turn them into HMIs. And or if they want to start up a new hex stake, they can do it through those new contracts and call them HMIs. And HMIs are going to have some more functions available to them. One of them being that, like apart from it being a hex stake and being able to borrow Hedron and all of that kind of stuff, they're also going to be able to, like there was a problem with some of the people who were wanting to airdrop to hex stakers, and then people who had HSIs couldn't receive those airdrops because of the way that people had designed their airdrops. So all HMIs are going to be available for all future airdrops. So that's obviously just, you know, pretty positive. Also, people, you're going to be able to have multiple owners. So like a multi-sig kind of thing. So in order to like end the stake, you might need 2 or 3 signatures or 5 of 8 signatures or something like that, which is another extra kind of ability. I'm not sure what the kind of like what situation. I guess if someone wanted to do a really big one, well, I'm not so sure about these having multiple people own something. I guess if you're an institution or some sort of organization and you wanted to own it and you wanted it to not rely on one person, maybe in that scenario, or if you're a family, you wanted to own it as a family, but I don't know. It's like, on the one hand, like multi-sigs have you know, there's positives and negatives about doing something in multi-sig. In the past, HSIs had to be tokenized first before you send them anywhere. HMIs won't need to do that. There's going to be straight up an NFT. You're also going to and then so let's go down to, so yeah, basically, and a few people have been asking this, HMIs are just the version 2 of an HSI. It stands for hex mining instance, because, you know, Richard went on that thing of calling them hex miners as opposed to hex stakes.
Is that what we settled on? We were not publishers, we're miners. I like it.
I still like stakes. I think stakes is clearer, and I just tend to use the word stake. I understand why Richard did it, but I think it's kind of it's better just to be clearer when you're calling it that, and then you have to explain why. It's just this whole kind of thing, and it's not clear for people wanting to understand things quickly, and when they're just first encountering this stuff. Like a stake, we know what that means. And a mine is like, what do you mean I'm mining? Well, you are, but it's not like a Bitcoin miner. It's a bit different, and blah 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 blah. Yeah.
A stake versus a miner. Yeah, I think when I think of mining, I think of hardware too. So it's kind of maybe a different paradigm for people to adjust to. A miner being software. You can have a software miner too. So that's that thing as well.
So yeah, so Hedron, there's going to be batch mint support. So you can be able to get the Hedron from multiple stakes at one time, which is obviously going to save on gas, and is also going to encourage people to mint their Hedron from all of their stakes. This is going to be interesting. Leverage borrow. So you're going to be able to, like it used to be that with HSIs you could borrow or get an advance on all of the Hedron that stake is going to make over its lifetime. Now you're going to be able to do that at anywhere up to a 10x leverage. So people are going to be able to, and that's actually one way you can short Hedron, if you think it's too high and it's going to go down. And what you could do then is you could take this HMI and you think, oh, Hedron's really up in price. You mint all of the Hedron from that at a 10x leverage. And then you turn that into US dollars or whatever you're shorting it against. Then if the price goes down, you use some of that USD to buy the Hedron, and you can pay off that advance that you took or the borrow. So, and now you're going to be able to, in the past, it hasn't really been worth it, especially because the price of Hedron has been so low. But this is going to make it more enticing to do that. There's also the fee calculations have been reworked to support number 3. Portions of this are given to. I don't fully understand that one. I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about on that one. Do you know?
Which one?
Number 3.
Fee calculations and rewards support number 3. Support number 3.
Is that in the one above? Like if you just scroll up, is that number 3 of the one above?
Support number 3. Oh. So for multi-sig, fee calculation be worked. Okay, to support multi-sig, that would make sense. Because yeah, if it's multi-sig, then it was probably the previous one was probably relying on there only being like one owner, or not multi-sig accounts. So
okay,
yeah,
so on this, what fee calculations does he mean?
Is that for the auctions?
Paying back a
Oh yeah, for the amortization schedule, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work with multi-sig. Where yeah, I mean they're obviously, this is early days, and some of the questions I've asked Alex is he says just wait for testnet. He just recently tweeted that he's finished the HMI contract, so the testnets are going to be planned for I think Q1 of next year.
Oops.
So
bring that up real quick. Yeah, HMI code is complete, ready for testnet. Working on cross-chain tokens parts next. Yeah. And I replied, yeah, 16 more weeks. Yes. But yeah, but there is a HMI code. That's a big step. But again, yeah, I'm wondering. I said it tongue in cheek, but at the same time, it's like the cross-chain token part. I mean, that's the biggest new idea. So that could take some time.
Right. I don't know if that will be so difficult though. Like it's just basically like accepting a wrapped version as well as the native Pulse or Hedron. But anyway, I don't know about coding that much, so I'm sure it sounds like complex, and that that's why he's planning on doing 2 or 3 audits, he said, and so
yeah, that's the part. That's the part I think will take some time, because just getting it correct, and it's never been done before. He said that before. So
yeah,
the new aspect, the more audits probably thing is what makes me think it could take, let's say, yeah. He said hopefully by the end of the year or something, but yeah, I'm thinking, I'm thinking January, February. That's my best no expectations guess.
The other thing about the leverage borrowing of Hedron as well, that's going to burn a lot more Hedron potentially as well, because when people do borrows and they pay it back, whatever is paid back is that Hedron is burnt. And that burnt Hedron comes out as Icosa.
So it could be 10x more burning?
It's going to be, I think it's going to mean more burning of Hedron, which means less Hedron, and which means more Icosa paid to those people who are staking Hedron or Icosa, and the Wattses.
I wonder if it's linear, like if it's borrowed 10x, yeah, because it would be 10x more. So it would be, the repayments would be 10x higher. Of the ratio. Then okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. And and then we have, yeah, the borrowing will have a proper amortization schedule, fees up front. Yeah, and then they're going to do he's doing a few things to stop the bots buying up the stakes.
That was annoying. I'm glad that's happening.
So yeah, so auctions will have a randomized 24 or some in between 24 and 72 hours, and also the extension is going to be randomized, or is randomly randomized. That's interesting, actually. How do you do randomization in a Solidity contract?
Well, you can you can do pretty much everything. So I guess there is a time library there. Yeah, not a smart contract coder, but yeah, there's got to be a way to pull from randomness and generate some random number from it. Let's see.
Interesting.
Random number Solidity. Stack Overflow, our friend. Deterministic. You want to figure that contract options. Produce randomness option. Oh, interesting. So how does he?
So does that need an oracle, or is that there's something way in Solidity to do that? Is there?
Yeah, I take back what I said. Maybe the way is to either do it off chain with Oracle or have I guess you could have a list of different ones that have been randomly generated beforehand, and you just pick from that list. That's probably how to do it. And so you don't rely on oracles. So that's one way. Maybe he's just hard coded, like, hey, here's like, I don't know, 100 different ones that 100 different random things, and then so it just picks one, but nobody knows which one's gonna. But now if you randomly pick one, there's gotta be a function. Okay, so it doesn't generate randomness. All right, getting very technical at this point, but I'm curious myself. You cannot create truly random numbers. Yeah, obviously pseudo random determinant system, but you can pick one. I'm sure there's a way to randomly pick which random number. I think that would be the way to. It's not going to have an oracle for this, but again, I guess we'll see a lot more on testnet as well.
I doubt he would have an oracle for it, but that's because I don't think that he'd want to bring that into it. Like, he really likes it when you don't have to touch the outside world in any way.
I thought there was something that had oracles, though. I thought he mentioned there would be an oracle. He would need an oracle for something in this new system.
Oh, really? Right.
I thought during that conversation with Sloth, he said like he would need it for something, but it wasn't. Maybe it was the auctions. Maybe it was some parts of the auctions. But I can't remember. Yeah, don't quote me on that. But I feel like I heard him say that, but I can't remember which piece. But it wasn't some critical piece. It was just like, hey, we kind of need this to make this particular feature work. But it wasn't like I'm not sure if it's auctions or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when starting an auction, you can set the starting bids higher. So it used to be that you just had to pay the minimum, and that triggered the auction. But now you can actually start at a higher bid, and one of the reasons for that is also because he's put a fee on for bidding, so that people don't do micro bids, and that fee will also be going to the Icosa pools for distribution. So that's extra Hedron. It's given to the Icosa that's staked.
The most annoying thing about the auctions was the bots. Like, it was like, okay, I want to get this one, and I bid, and then they just like either snipe it or you don't watch it at the end, but also you can't snipe it because it was like it resets. I think that the timer resets near the end, and all that stuff, and then so that part, and then also people just bidding like a little bit more, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it just made it. So I think what he's trying to do is,
like, I used to get into some bidding wars, and people, you can tell with the numbers people were using. It was definitely not a bot. It was people, because it'd be like 369, 369, 369, 369, or 555, or whatever. Or they'd put it up and buy an extra 0.5555 Hedron or whatever like that.
I know. I'm glad that he's taking steps to make it, to incentivize people to participate more, because that's the thing. I'd be, oh yeah, I can't wait to. There's all kinds of good deals on Hedron auctions. I'm like, okay, by the time I get there, I bid, I win like one out of every 5 or 6, and then it's never even the ones I really want to win. I just kind of feel like I need to get a win at this point. So yeah, it'll be more fair for the people. I like that part.
Yeah.
And then this is cool. Number 9, he left it. It's save the best for last, huh? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that's going to be super interesting. So let's say, and that's really going to bring you would think that that's going to bring the Hedron on the Ethereum and the PulseChain prices to much closer parity, because let's say it was like drastically less on one chain, you could just bridge a whole lot of those tokens over and then use that to bid on an HMI on the other chain.
And in turn, I wonder if it'll affect the Hex and the unification on that, at least somewhat. It could have some effect for that too.
Yeah, they're kind of becoming a bit closer together already now, aren't they? Like at the moment, Hex on Pulse is 0.0076, and on Ethereum, it is, where are you? It's about half, 0.0037. Right, so it's still half. Yeah.
Yes, that's going to add a whole other deal on just being able to arbitrage, bringing things closer, and just making it easier. Like Alex's soft conversation, I remember him saying, like, people think, why can't they do that? He was like, yeah, why shouldn't you be able to? You should be able to do that. Like, that's like a technical thing. We understand you can't, but for the average person, it's like, yeah, why can't I use Hedron on whatever train to bid on these auctions?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the price of Hedron on each chain, and they're becoming much closer. So on ETH, it's about 6018, and on Pulse, it's 602.
Yeah, and the whole, the EHEX, PHEX, Hedron, like the E versus P pair thing, I think it gives some strength to the both going to be around if you start unify them in those ways. And where the whole argument is like, it's so confusing for new people. It's one of the main points, at least. And if you make it less confusing for people by doing these type of unification things, maybe 2 is okay for even some of the skeptics.
Yeah, we had an interesting conversation today on the on another stream. Like, do you think we'll ever see a Hex version 2? Like, somebody could actually do this for Hex as well, where they release a contract which accepted Hex and then also the wrapped version. And so you could bridge over your Ethereum Hex to PulseChain and stake it there, or you could bridge over your, or vice versa. But it would require a new version of the Hex contract. And then it's kind of like, well, if you're doing that, what other kind of like things could you improve about Hex? I don't think it's anything that Richard would do, but then I was thinking, well, actually anybody could do it. Like anybody could put up a contract that does something like that. And, like maybe they try to make the end staking cheaper, for instance. Or
are you describing some of the Maximus projects? Gold Key chimed in. No, I think there is a isn't there a forgive me, Gold Key. There was the combination where you could mint the it slipped my mind. Sorry, you guys got so many products. The one where it had the EHEX, PHEX.
Oh, checks.
Is that what it was?
CHEX.
Yeah. The cross chain, like the deal, like okay, that's the one. So there is that. But just on Hex V2 though, I've talked about this before with Sloth on stream as well. Of like, I think Alex doing this cross chain thing where he can use it on both chains. If Richard or the dev team or whoever's making all this crazy stuff decides like that's a good direction for the future of Hex and stuff, I think it would have to be him. I think this, community projects will be built around it for for different stuff too. But I wonder if Hedron's cross chain stuff, if it comes out, it's successful and tested and all that stuff. I don't think it'll be anytime soon. Maybe a year or two from now. It's been battle tested. Maybe Richard or otherwise see it works. if there would be a Hex V2, I could see that it being the unification of the two hexes on those two chains, EHEX and PX, being a primary feature. But I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, if it ever happens.
It's look,
yes,
I don't think it will happen. It definitely won't happen anytime soon. But I just treat it as it's an interesting, like, imaginary exercise. Like, what else would you add, or how would you change, if anything? Or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe it's like, there are people who think that Hex is perfect as it is, and that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yes. Check out Rowdy for a minute.
Very resistant to change.
I agree. Hex is Hex. I agree. However, if RH or the devs or whoever's making decisions up there in the sky that we have no expectations of, if they decide that it's better to,
and it will be a choice thing. Like the same thing with all of these changes to Hedron and Icosa. Like, you don't have to use this version 2 that Alex is making at the moment. You could just keep your original and use those original contracts. They can't be taken off the blockchain, and they're still going to go along and work as they always have done. And so if you're a kind of purist and you think, I don't want that extra contract risk and I like it what it is already, you could just continue using all of that stuff as is. So it's about choice rather than forcing people into something. Yeah.
You want to quickly go before we wrap up on Icosa stuff and
yeah. So so what else? Staking is now called mining, blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. So there was that error actually with the original contracts, where it was going to be that you got a bonus depending on how long you staked, and so now he's going to fix all of that, and he's going to ensure that that bonus exceeds compounding. So rather than people kind of having to make all of these extra wallets and put them all in and compound away, it's just going to tighten all that up, and you're just going to be able to stake and leave it in there, and it's going to do, that's the best kind of option, rather than having to create a whole lot of wallets and keep churning them over. Also, this is really interesting, because obviously there's a ceiling price for Hedron and Icosa, and the ceiling price for Icosa, like if you can give an HSI and get a certain amount of Icosa, and if that Icosa is worth more than would cost to make that same stake, then basically as soon as it goes over that ceiling price, it just gets arbed back down. And so he's making it so that the amount of Icosa that you get from selling it to the contract is going to change depending on that price, that Hex to Icosa kind of ratio. And the Icosa you get as well is going to be put in some sort of automatic mining ladder. So you can't just basically arb it, because you won't have it liquid immediately. So that's going to mean that there's not going to be as much of a ceiling. It's gonna, like, there's gonna be, it's interesting, hey? It's like interesting to see how it's going to play out. And I guess we'll see on Testnet a little bit more about how that works. But yeah, like there's also something he's doing which I don't fully understand. We'll wait till we get to that. So yeah, this is it. It's going to create Uniswap V2 and PulseX pools at launch, so that liquidity providers mine their Icosa Hex LP tokens for yield. Yeah.
Interesting. So does that mean the contract will create?
So it means that there's going to be, it's going to, like, I'm not sure where that's coming from. I guess where
there is a war chest. There's a war chest, right? Maybe, or maybe it's minting to. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't understand. Is it from the war chest, do you think? Like, where does the hex come for those liquidity pools? That's what I can't work out.
I don't know. That's a good one. That there is some unknowns in this. Even it's a thorough explanation, but all these key points don't have a lot to them other than a sentence or two. So, yeah, I'm not sure how to take that one yet. But there will be pools. That's cool. Okay.
Maybe it's gonna just be a further incentive, because you know how like Icosa and Hedron never got any of that incentive token. So maybe this is his way of putting an extra reward for people who stake Icosa and Hex. So let's say you make a liquidity pool, you're going to get rewarded for having liquidity in there with Icosa.
I always thought some of these improvements would be competing or try to be like, hey, you know, staking this is going to be more beneficial than LP. But now there's like a LP crossover deal too. So I really don't know what to make of it yet. I need more than one sentence, Alex. I know. More, please, sir. More, please. But yeah, it's fun to speculate in the meantime.
Yeah.
The biggest part, yeah, we want to hit on too, is don't worry. Stuff can be migrated. Not will be migrated, can be migrated. So
yeah, so you can still use the old contracts if you want, but also it's like it's good now because if you've got stakes coming up and you want to chuck in for another 270 days or something like that, you can just go ahead and do it, and you're not going to lose out. You know, you're going to be able to make that decision. That's a great question, Golgi.
Yeah.
I think that Hedron and Icosa were so wrecked by the fork that he has to do something, and I think that. So I don't know if I think people will automatically go to the V2. I think everyone will use it. I think that will be the social consensus. That's my guess. And I don't think you're not really fracturing by making a V2. Like, I don't think you're really fracturing it between the V1 and V2. But in a sense, it's kind of giving more. If some people stay on V1 and other people stay on V2, it's more choice. And we did see that sort of fracturing in you know, when it happened with Hex and on the fork. Yeah, so I don't know.
Fracturing, but I was talking about this the other day. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was talking about this the other day on stream about how different factions around the ecosystem, around PulseChain, otherwise, as long as, you know, we can have different ideals, but as long as we have the same goals and we stay interconnected and we maintain these positive feedback loops between products or choices or otherwise, you know, I don't think fracturing is I think it can be a bad thing, but I don't think that it doesn't have to be. So if there's some people that stay with, you know, dare I say Hedron Classic, or those that go for V2, then I don't know. And like, what does that do to the price of the stuff that people stay with?
You know, it's something that we'll never know, because we'll never be able to do it like a double blind. You know, we'll never be able to have a control group to test it. You know what I mean? And that's the only way you could really ever find out. Because I think there's
hire a focus group.
Yeah, I think there's also an argument that having more economic activity actually generates more economic activity. Like, I know that if you have if you imagine if you have a marketplace and there's only two things are being sold in there, then you're sure all the value is going to go to those two things. But if you have a multitude of things, like 100 things all being sold at that marketplace, then someone buys something and then they go and buy something else with something else. And having all of that economic activity is actually, and that human kind of like trading or exchanging of value actually creates a greater overall value. Like, that's what we see in economic systems. And so that's why, you know, like capitalism works better than socialism, because with, you know, or with communism, because it's like where you don't have the choice, there's no incentive to better the position. And so it's really the exchange of human value which is creating the economic value. And so having greater exchange of value, I think, in the overall is increases the whole system, rather than, and it can do so exponentially, and so, yeah, it's an interesting philosophical question, but it's also one that we will never fully know the answer to. There's a lot of reasons that the Hex price has gone down, and everyone is kind of guessing as to what the reasons are. But in the end, it's just kind of like it's this mass human consensus of what has happened.
They pretend to pay us and we pretend to work. When he said socialism, that came to mind. In that, yes, there's no good system. There's only better and worse ones. I think the trade-offs. Shout out to GoKeep for posting that the other day too, about the Thomas Sowell trade-offs. There's no good and bad. There's better and worse, and that sort of thing. Or people. Anyways, I'm not gonna go on that. Last question though, because I just want to wrap up. Do we know if we need to be unstaked for V2 migration on Icosa and Hedron?
No, you don't. That's what he just said. You can take those stakes and move them over to the V2. And so if you have liquid Icosa or Hedron, you'll be able to move that. If you have HSIs, you'll be able to move those. If you have Hedron stakes or Icosa stakes, you'll be able to move those.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to, if you've got a stake on the Ethereum chain, if you'll be able to move it to the PulseChain. I'm not sure how that will work.
How much cross swap will there be? That's a good question. Anything else on HMI swap marketplace? Yeah, so the marketplace, touch on that real quick, and then we'll wrap up. Marketplace for HMIs and Wattses.
Yeah, well, that's really important, hey, because that's just that's the user experience that we really need. We were depending on OpenSea for a little while, and I think that he was working with some other people who haven't come out yet to help their marketplaces, but they still haven't come out. And so I think Alex sees this, he sees his sort of site as the place to go to for all of your analytics and also all of your marketplace. He wants everything to happen in that one space. And I think that user experience is going to be super important especially for bringing new people on, making everything really clear, having really good information all laid out, understanding the range of what things are going for. You're going to have a choice, I think, whether you can actually sell your HMIs or auction them off as well. You're going to be able to do that. And so, yeah, he's got, plenty of plans, but plenty of work to do to implement all of that, obviously, as well.
HMI code is complete. Just to remind everyone, this stuff is happening, getting ready for testnet, and working on the next part. Who knows how long